Rotary model, service above
Service
self.
above self.
Okay, please stand, put your hand over your heart, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
There we go. And now please join me in a moment's silence. All right, welcome everyone. Before I go through our announcements today, I want to just pre-introduce Debbie and Mark Whittington from Alexandria, Virginia, who are going to have a program for us today that we'll remember forever. And this is one of those meetings I'm so glad we're recording because we'll have it it'll go in the Cape Charles Rotary, vault of good meetings. So Mark, Debbie, welcome. We'll give you a more gracious introduction in about 20-25 minutes, but I hope we don't embarrass ourselves because we are a bunch of silly people for people our age, but we have fun every Tuesday, and we're delighted to have you. So look, the golf cart is on the Eastern Shore. It arrived on Friday. It's over in the Bay Creek Golf Cart Garage. I haven't been there. I was out of town last week, so I haven't seen it yet, but we're going to get the paperwork done. And everybody, thank Bobby again for making that happen. And Randy and his team will be announcing our raffle as soon as they dot a few more I's and cross a few more T's. But I think we're going to have an exciting spring and have a lot of fun raffling off that golf cart. So thanks again, Bobby. All right, who called a Rotarian? Regina called a. Tell us about it, Regina.
I called my buddy, Ralph Dodd, and I had to leave a message. I thought I called him at first, but I guess I got the wrong number or something. And then I tried emailing him, and that didn't work either because it went to Dickinson instead. So yeah, I'm getting older. But anyway, I hope I got a hold of him this morning, and I just said, please try to attend the meeting. So I can't tell if he's here or not. So
no, Ralph's not here.
Yeah, I'm getting a little concerned.
Well, Ralph's okay. Don't worry about Ralph, but it was really gracious of you to reach out for him. You get an A for effort. Who else tried to call a Rotarian that we haven't seen on one of these Zoom meetings? Okay, there will be no shaming, but I will ask everybody to give themselves a reminder, tie a string around your finger that you want to call someone that Mark, Debbie, we have about 40 Rotarians. About 20 typically show up for the Zoom meeting. And that's because half the world hates Zoom. We even have people that come to the meeting even though they hate it. Jim, we thank you for that. All right. Be thinking about service projects. I see Bob Church isn't on today. So Bob is working on the fire hydrant project in Eastville and soon to be in Cape Charles, but the weather's getting warmer. I guess we should be thinking about cleaning up the highway, but the highway is underwater if you've been out Stone Road lately. So I know if Paul was still in charge, he would have us out there in waders cleaning up the highway. But we will. But before long, you want to say something, Paul? I know you want to say something. You're on mute, Paul. Paul's having real difficulty. So anyway,
You've
yeah,
got
go
me
ahead,
on.
Paul.
There
We
it
can hear
is.
you
All
now.
right. So I called, I actually emailed Dennis because I I realized it'd been a while. And he said, well, let's wait until it's no longer flooded at least. So I agreed.
Maybe we
Okay.
can go crabbing along the roadways.
Okay, Bob Church is coming on now. And
Paul, you might want to go back on mute. There's some feedback.
no, I think I know who the culprit is.
Okay.
I think the culprit is Tom. But hey, real quick, will you tell us about COVID on the Eastern Shore, Paul, while you're
Sure. If you look at the graphs everywhere, they're falling very nicely. It's the fall is very impressive, but and I'm afraid a lot of people are looking at that and thinking this thing is over. But if you look at how far the graphs have fallen, they're still at levels that we saw in mid to late November, which was prior to that big holiday surge. And what we've seen is that surge is pretty much resolved now. But the levels that we're at, the graphs are kind of leveling off. They're beginning to flatten out. And we're still at levels that prior to November, we thought were really bad. Even the peaks that we saw, like in the summer, we're still at those levels or higher. So it's not time to just pretend like everything is normal, because it's not. So keep following the precautions. Bill Murphy asked me, sent me an email prior to the meeting asking me to comment about what we should be doing after we get the vaccine, which is an excellent question. And so I looked up to check the latest CDC guidelines, and also found Mayo Clinic guidelines, and they all agree that we should continue. It kind of sends out a bad message. I've heard people criticize this, if you tell people after they're vaccinated, they still got to take precautions, why would people want to get vaccinated? But you get vaccinated to prevent severe disease. It prevents hospitalizations. It prevents death, virtually 100%, all of them, including the new Johnson & Johnson one. So that's a great benefit to the vaccines, but they're not 100% protective against getting COVID. So as a public health measure, we should all continue to follow the precautions, because you can still get a mild or asymptomatic case of COVID and spread it to other people and some of those people out there still aren't vaccinated and won't be for months. So you might be responsible for somebody else getting a bad case and even dying. So it's important to continue to follow the precautions, even if you've been vaccinated.
Hey, Paul, can I
okay.
ask you a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
In your research, did you see anything about the fact that our immune systems are compromised? That's one of the reasons not able to fight off the viruses as well, and we should do something to improve our immune system for future circumstances, because viruses are going to continue to come back, in different forms and fashions over time.
No, I haven't seen much about that, because there's not much that's been scientifically proven to improve our immune systems that I'm aware of.
Any other question for Paul? Okay. Bill Stram, as we approach Giving Tuesday, would you like to share a few words?
Sure, Bill, thank you. So it's getting to be that close to that time of year where we have the District 7600 will be holding its annual Giving Tuesday on April the 6th. So let me give you the rules. Contributions must be made to the annual fund. Contributions up to an individual contribution of $500 will be matched with a Paul Harris Fellow recognition points 1-for-1. Contributions must be made online on the My.Rotary website on April the 6th. Your My Rotary account must be set up in advance at least the week before if you do not already have an account. And Rotarians who are Paul Harris Fellows +8 are not eligible for recognition points because such points are not valid towards major donor status. So that's where we stand on that. And I hope we get some, I know that Regina's big into this and so is Mark. So it's a way to get extra points. So. Hey.
Yeah, Mark always participates. And I'm proud to say Bill Stram is not eligible because
Right.
Bill is a Paul Harris +8 or 9, Bill.
I don't know.
Bill's given so much money to Rotary, he's lost count. So Bill, congratulations on your generosity again. Keep up the good work. We're proud of you. And when I grow up, I want to be like you, Bill.
Well, you're going to be there pretty soon. You're going to be, you're getting
Hey,
up
Bill,
there.
you got a big mouth, Bill. Why don't you just move on? Hey, Robert Church, I see you came on. Do you have anything to say about the Eastville Fire Hydrant project? You're on mute here. You have to unmute, Bob. There you go.
About testing.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, yeah, but no, they haven't got back to me. I've contacted them about 5 different times and they haven't got back to me yet. So I guess I'm gonna have to try to contact them again.
There you go. Don't give up. It's too cold to paint
Okay.
fire hydrants anyway, but we want to be
Yeah.
ready when the weather warms up. Now you can tell
I'll
us.
give you word.
The real reason I invoked you, Bob, is you were a volunteer this Saturday at the Randy Custis Memorial Park Sweat Equity Party. So you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, Randy and I had a good time painting. We painted 3 rooms up there, and we had a good time. It was good. You know, we had we represented Cape Charles there.
How many hours did you work, Bob?
I guess about 4 hours.
Good for you for representing Cape Charles. Bob, don't get too close to the stove with that fancy thing you're growing on your face right now.
Hey,
Paul,
Bill,
Paul,
Bill?
you should laugh. Al, you shouldn't be laughing either. You guys all might go up in flames if you're not careful.
Bill, I've got a question about the Giving Tuesday. Can you do that before the 6th or is it only on the 6th?
It's only on the 6th.
Okay, thank you.
It's only on the 6th. That's why it's called Giving Tuesday.
Gotcha.
And we'll come back and revisit that in the weeks as we approach April 6th. All right, I have an announcement. I don't have a lot of detail, but our good friend Kelvin Jones, our Reverend Kelvin Jones, is under the weather. I don't have many details, but as more information is available, I'll pass it on. But keep Kelvin in your thoughts and prayers in the days ahead. All right, we have a few minutes before we have the big show. So has anybody got anything for the good of Rotary they would like to share, or they just want to share with us in general before we do the you know what? Okay, well, Diane, this is your cue. It is happy dollars. Happy dollars. Has anybody got $1 because they are happy? Regina has $1 or more because she's happy. Regina, we can't hear you. Regina, you're on mute.
My cleaning lady's here, so I have
That's
to mute it.
Don't show off that you got a cleaning lady.
I finally got into DAC TV. It took me about 3 hours last night. Oh my gosh. But I signed up for that Zoom grant management course. Figured I better go ahead and sign up for that. That's coming up on March 18th if anybody's interested. So at $1.
Very good. And Regina, keep us posted on the international stuff, will you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Be-
Yeah. Hopefully they'll have another meeting. They couldn't have the speaker from Africa last time because his technology was not compatible with Zoom. So she hasn't. I emailed her and asked her to please invite me again to their next Rotary meeting. So hopefully I'll hear from her soon.
Regina, you should know the board has approved that project.
Hallelujah.
And you might take a minute right in the middle of Happy Dollars and share with the club what that's all about.
Well, they have about $5,000 more that they need to have people contribute to putting in about 10, I think they're called warheads or something. They're hand pumps, because the hand pumps that they have out there in Ghana, it's just not working anymore. So they need about $5,000 more. So we can contribute about $500. That would be great. It's the Rotary Club of Accra Labong. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not. But this is something that's been going on for the last 10 years. I went back I keep all my Rotary magazines, and USA has been involved with the Rotary clubs in Ghana for close to or more than 10 years already on making the sanitation and the water potable for the residents there. It's a worthwhile project. I feel confident with it because I know they've had their ups and downs with it, and they know what works out there. So I'm confident that our money will go for a good cause.
I'll remind everybody that Regina is the head of our International Projects Committee. And if you would like to work with her, just give her a call. And 2 heads or 3 heads are better than one. And I'm sure Regina would appreciate your help. Maybe a good way to stick your toe in the water is to join her on March 18th for that meeting. Thank you, Regina. Joan, did I see you raise your hand as a happy person?
I did, and I'm going to give $5 because I got my second shot. Again, I am so happy.
Thank you, Joan. Anybody else? Randy.
I'm happy that golf cart has arrived. $5 worth of happiness.
There you go.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks, Randy. Any others? Okay, David, turn your mic on, David.
Yeah, hey, I just got a call the other day from my oldest son, one of 5 kids I've got. And he gave me the news that he's expecting a baby. My 10th grandchild is on the way. So hallelujah.
Congratulations.
So I think it's safe to say the Cavler name is not going to fade away.
So how many dollars is that? $10, David?
I give it $5 here.
Okay. Any and congratulations, David. Tom Godwin, turn your sound on, Tom.
You hear me there?
Yeah, we sure can.
Okay. I have 2 happy dollars because today is my birthday. And I'm also happy because Mary is a fellow United States citizen, for whatever you want that to be. I'm proud of her and glad to accept her.
Happy birthday.
So it's 2 happy dollars for her also.
Boy, Tom, I would think for your birthday and Mary's citizenship, you would be worth more than $2. But
Yeah.
But I understand. That's okay. I'm gonna help.
But I haven't finished yet.
Oh, okay. No, for $2, that's all you get, Tom.
I got 2 more dollars because my daughter came home and gave me a party, and my wife is going to carry me out to dinner later on. So another 2. So I guess we got about six. Let's say $10 and get it out of the way.
Hey, that's the spirit, Tom.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, how old are you?
83.
Congratulations.
Still a young pup.
Too old to vote.
Chuck, were you waving your hand frantically there?
I was just indicating 4 happy dollars, and then he jumped it up 2 more dollars.
Oh, okay. Maddie's got, thank you, Jackie.
5 happy dollars for Tom's birthday.
There you go.
Thank you.
How much?
2 happy dollars.
Mary is, for what, Mary?
Well, first, I filed my tax on Saturday. And it's the first time I filed my tax. During the past, it's my husband filed the tax for the house, but this year I did it for the house. And it was, but I'm glad I don't have to worry about it for this year so far. So I'm happy for that. And also I'm happy because it's Tom's birthday. As far as I became a U.S. citizen, I'm running out of my dollars. So when I get more dollars, I will give my more happy dollars for that.
Okay, don't overdo it all at once. Jackie, did you say your hand was raised?
See my hand raised there?
Oh, yeah, there's Jackie's hand.
I have 5 happy dollars for Tom's birthday. And Tom, I got your $20 too.
All right.
Jackie's finally paying Tom for his book.
Okay, that's a private, huh?
Hey, Mike, I see your hand is up. You're on mute, Mike. Go get Lynn and have her turn the.
And Robert's hand is up.
Yeah, you're still on mute, Mike.
Okay, we good?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, about 5 happy dollars. Lynn and I both received our 2nd shot vaccines last week, and we're happy about that.
That's great, Mike. And Robert, I see your hand. That's all I see is your hand.
Yes. Okay, I got a $5 happy dollar donation for Tom Godwin's birthday, Mary's citizenship, and my wife and I get our 2nd shot today.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a good $5. You squeezed a lot in there. Well, I'm going to wrap it up with $10, $5 because whenever Mary speaks, I've got to mute somebody here. Whenever Mary speaks, I just get happy. So $5 for that, and then $5 for my good friend Tom Godwin. I hope to live so long, Tom.
Yeah, he will.
You don't know, but stay healthy, Tom.
I appreciate it.
Okay, well, that's it for Happy Dollars. Thank you, everyone. And what we're going to do now is transition to our program, which will be just outstanding. I briefly introduced Deborah and Mark Whittington as our guests today. What I didn't tell you is that they are optimists. And you say, well, we're all optimists. Well, no, we're not all optimists. The Optimists International are like Rotarians. They do good in their neighborhood. They're an international service organization. So I'm going to ask Debbie and or Mark to tell us a little bit more about our fellow or sister service club before they present their program. So tell us about yourselves, my friends, and the show is yours.
Well, thank you very much. It's delightful to be here. Thank you for inviting us. Our optimists, we're part of the Arlington Optimist Club. There are about 5 different clubs in Northern Virginia. Optimists International used to be 176,000 people 20 years ago. Now it's 76,000. I don't know if Rotarians have the same problem with retention. But we still, our big fundraiser of the year is a Christmas tree lot. And we've been, 75 years on the same corner in Arlington. And Arlington's a fairly wealthy county, so we can afford to sell trees for 3 times what they're worth. And that's our big fundraiser for the year. And so we use that money to support local sports programs, intramural programs, and $20,000 in scholarships, and several $1,000s worth of oratorical and essay contests. All are for high school age and younger. So that's what we do. And Debbie is now secretary of that organization. I'm past president. I will say that they do not, you have more people on the Zoom call than we have at our luncheons. And even the 10 people or less, it's just right at the cusp. If you count the serving people, we can't have lunches indoors, but they won't Zoom at all. So you guys are ahead in that respect.
Yeah. And despite COVID this year, we had a record-breaking year. We sold 2,400 trees in 3 weeks. And it's all volunteers. We have the youth organizations that receive our donations volunteer. So it was a very big year. We were very pleased.
So that's the optimist side. Right now, we're both members of the Bull Run Civil War Roundtable. And in that organization, we do have Zoom calls, meetings once a month. And I'm currently president of that. We have speaker and sort of like you're doing. And we don't have even though we have on paper 350 members, we only have about 45 or 50 that actually show up on Zoom. So Zoom, as you pointed out, is just not for everybody. By the way, Tom, I'm going to remember that line, I'm too old to vote. I really like that. Very clever. Well, let's see. Our topic today is how did we get into reenacting and living history, and particularly the Civil War. I'll go first. I'm a veteran. I'm sure many of you are veterans. My father was career Army. My grandfather was career Army. I have 2 great-great-grandfathers in the Civil War, both Union. One was cavalry, one artillery. So really the military is part of my life. So when it came an opportunity to go after retirement, I want to do something totally different than the stuff I did in Washington for 40 years. And so I wanted to take advantage of the time to do Civil War stuff. And it started by running around the field with muskets and shooting, burning powder, as we call it. And we'll show you some slides in a moment of some of the fun you can have. Now that becomes less fun as you get older, I might add. So I kind of evolved into living history. I'm currently dressed as my persona, Lieutenant General Joseph E. Johnston of Virginia, the third ranking general in the Confederate Army. And why did I take Confederate? Well, just it's happenstance. My best friend who was in the hobby brought me into this Fairfax Rifles, which was the local reenacting group in Northern Virginia. I would also add that I like portraying Johnston because he thought slavery was an abominable institution. He did not have slaves. His father did not either. So I feel fairly comfortable playing the role. Also, I'm the same height and like him, follically challenged. How did you get started here?
Well, I grew up in a small town in Southwest Virginia called Stewart, and this just so happened to be the birthplace of Jeb Stuart. So as you can imagine, the Civil War was a popular topic. Also, 6 of my 8 great-great-grandfathers fought in the Civil War. But I really didn't get involved in living history until the late 1990s. My late husband was interested in the hobby, so we began participating in living history events. There was a lot of research involved to recreate life as it was in the 1860s. I had to learn about the dress, the customs, daily life. And if you're portraying a specific person, you learn everything you can about their life. But it's very rewarding to be able to pass this knowledge on to others. Actually, Mark and I met doing living history as we're both members of Lee's Lieutenants. But today we would like to share a slideshow with different events and activities we've been involved with over the last decade. So I hope you will enjoy.
And by the way, she mentioned one of the thrills of doing a persona is learning more about them. And I learned that even though Joe Johnston wore this kepi at Battle of First Manassas, he saw Jeb Stuart and he quickly decided he wanted a plumed hat like Jeb Stuart. So for the balance of the Civil War, Joe Johnston was wearing a plumed hat, and I'll assume that now. And that was our transition to the slideshow. Let's see how this works.
Yes. Supposed to be at the beginning.
Oh, heck. We're going to go ahead and start at the beginning then. Now, reenactment is distinguished from living history. Reenactment, you're actually portraying soldiers. I'm in there somewhere. And you have to know the drill, shoot the weapons, clean the weapons. And it's a lot of fun, frankly, especially if you've been in the Army. Here we are at Cedar Creek, which is you can see the mountains behind us. That is the premier battle of the year, every year in October. This is our unit, the 17th Virginia. Company D, the flag company for the regiment. And it was actual unit formed in Fairfax Courthouse in June of 1861. And here are our counterparts, reenactors on the other side. Robert Lee would call them those people. Also marching the battle scene. And you can see it's kind of fun. Here we are at the other signature battle, Newmarket in the spring. And that's in the valley also. And here are the Cadet Corps from VMI splashing through. Actually, Debbie took that picture, splashing through a vernal pool that it had rained very heavily the night before. Here's our particular unit on the side. Of course, they had cannons firing at us, and naturally we had cannons firing at them. It's all great fun, especially when you can get back up at the end of the day. And here's a very nice commercial photograph of a battle scene. And they also have cavalry, very exciting for the spectators, very dangerous for the horsemen. You have to be a good horseman, and those are real sabers, although they're dull, but you just have to be extremely careful. And here's the Confederate cavalry coming back, doing a parade past the reviewing stands, which weren't stands, they're just roped off area for the spectators. Here we are dragging ourselves back without the benefit of horses back to camp. And camp life is part of the experience. This was the Battle of Fredericksburg, 150th anniversary in 12. And we're being chased through town by the Union until they got to Mary's Heights, and we know what happened there. actually it was 61. So it was 2011. Camp life was a big part of it. We all had tents. And here we are setting up tents. And it's always cold and wet in the morning, but it's fun to sit around, chat with people like you Rotarians. The whole benefit of the hobby is to talk to people and to have fun together. And here we are again in camp. Leslie there in front in the red cap is a major member. A view of all of our, we call them rifles, soldiers are called rifles, as distinguished from women. But that was several years ago. This was just 3 years ago. Debbie and I are on the end. We only had enough rifles because several of the women were dressed out as men in order to help fill the ranks. The ranks have dwindled substantially. We probably have 4 rifles today in that particular group.
And that's why you transitioned to
Yeah, that's why.
living history.
Yeah. That plus age, I moved to Lee's Lieutenants. This is Al Stone, who founded and portrayed Robert E. Lee. He was absolutely magnificent. He retired a couple of years ago. Jeb Stewart is behind him. I'm back in the back someplace as his aide. Here I am as Colonel Marshall, Lieutenant Colonel Marshall, at the surrender at Appomattox. This was not the 150th, but you can see Grant with Sherman behind him, and I'm behind Lee. And at the 150th Appomattox, they actually used the McLean House, the historic McLean House at Appomattox, and they filmed it in the salon. We usually get to do a meet the generals. Here I am still as a lieutenant colonel, and they actually let me speak once, so Debbie took my picture. But we introduce ourselves and talk a little bit. So having progressed to be a lieutenant general was much more fun. Here I am, a lieutenant general with Lee and Cooper.
And women also like to be involved in living history. These are just some of the women in our 17th Virginia reenacting group. And this is in Blenheim. Children also involved. What better way to learn history to actually act it out? Here again at Blenheim in Fairfax, one of the most popular events would be drilling the kids. We give them wooden rifles, and our captain there would teach them how to march, shoulder arms, and of course how to attack. But there was Mark on the end as a first sergeant.
And firing demonstrations are always popular. They also have Christmas in camp, but we don't fire then. But the spring event, we do. And now there are more and more Union at these events, which is appropriate, because they occupied the area during the war in Northern Virginia. But firing demonstrations are fun. You can't put down paper down the barrel because it ignites and will ignite the grass. And not living history, though, you also could just pretend to be a dying patient, which is one of our friends, or a musician.
And if your husband gets stopped talking with a spectator, there are always plenty of soldiers or officers to help you down the stairs. That's General Lee. You never know who you're going to meet. Here I met Frederick Douglass in Lewisburg, West Virginia, several years ago.
Most flamboyant, Lee's lieutenant, of course, was Jeb Stewart. And we had a gentleman who was the personification of personality and the spirit that Stewart apparently had. And he resplendent in his uniform. We don't call them costumes. Those are uniforms or period dress. And here I am as Beauregard in his uniform. This was at the sesquicentennial of First Manassas. And it was 105 degrees, and that was the hottest uniform I've ever had on my body. It was sweltering. And I don't even look like him, but nobody else would do the job, so I decided to portray Beauregard. This is Lee's lieutenants on one side and the Federal General Corps on the other. We're at Winchester Courthouse, which is now a museum. And we used to meet there annually.
And these are ladies of Lee's lieutenants and Federal General Corps. We would do a gathering of eagles, they would call it, every year. And of course, parades. We all love parades. And our favorite one, and I'm sure the most well attended, is Gettysburg Remembrance Day. And here we are lining up to march in the parade. That's held every November the week before Thanksgiving. And these are just a few pictures.
That's Jeff Davis on the end next to me as Joe Johnston. We hated each other in real life, but as reenactors, it's okay. Sometimes you just got to have fun. This is a parade in downtown Manassas. They had a Civil War weekend once a year, and it started off with a parade in the 17th Virginia. Here we are in parade in Alexandria in 2011. We stopped being invited there the next year. The city's just changed.
Yes, everything's changing. We participate in a lot of ceremonies. This is a marker dedication, color guard, if you want to talk about the flags.
Well, yes, we never carry the battle flag in these ceremonies. It's the American flag, Virginia, and the First National, which is the same flag that's hanging right here in the corner, but not the battle flag. This was a dedication at Blackburn's Ford, which was the first major skirmish of the Civil War, in which the 17th Virginia was a primary combatant. And there's the rest of the ceremony. Just behind them is Bull Run, which was where the Ford was. And we did other marker dedications in several, Drainsville, Annandale, Hunter Mill Road. This is on the Second Manassas battlefield. Notice no Confederate flag there. I'm holding the Virginia flag, and there's the large American flag. But the marker dedications have kind of eased off very definitely since the Sesquicentennial. And another one. And also this is Wolf Run Shoals. She's in pink in this one. Wolf Run Shoals is now buried under about 60 feet of water thanks to the dam on Occoquan River. But that was a major crossing for Washington and heading to Yorktown, and also in the Civil War, both sides used it as a ford.
And also a lot of cemetery dedications. This happens to be in Appomattox, honoring the fallen soldiers that are buried there in Appomattox. And this is in Alexandria Cemetery for an Iron Cross dedication. And you'll notice two blue arrows at the bottom pointing to the iron crosses that are actually placed on the graves. And they're all usually by United Daughters of the Confederacy.
And we're doing that with the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and that's why there's a battle flag.
One of my favorite things is sharing history with youth. Here we've had the pleasure for about the last 5 years, except for last year, doing what's called the Tennessee Invasion. There are about, I would say, 1,000 to 1,400 middle school students are bussed in from Knoxville, Tennessee, and we're their first stop on their weekend trip. We're at the Manassas battlefield, and we'll set up different stations, and the kids will just go from station to station and talk with all of us. Here you see some other fellow reenactors. On the right-hand side, the couple, she portrayed a laundress. Here I am, we see our tent set up, but just a small sample of what I might talk about. I would open telling the young ladies that they're not dressed properly. And I would ask, do you know why? Most would answer, because I'm not wearing a dress. I'd say, well, in fact, it's also because your arms are not covered. In the late 1860s, I would not have my arms exposed during the day. If my sleeves were too short, I would have these 3/4 sleeves. You see, I'm taking them off here. So in the day, my arms would not be exposed, but in the evening, I could have my ball gown on with my shoulders and arms exposed. If I'm working on a farm, I would wear a day dress without a hoop. And in this photo, I have a little fancier dress I might wear for an afternoon tea. I'm also wearing a 5-bone hoop. And before the war, approximately 13 tons of whalebone would be imported each year just to put into the hoops and the corsets. It's also common for the women to wear 10 to 12 layers over the hoop. It was considered a status symbol. The bigger the hoop, the higher you were in society. I also do a pretty popular presentation on the language of the fan and show how women communicated with their fan, but don't have time for that today.
Another station on the invasion, I'm explaining to the Tennessee students how important the Knoxville Regiment was in turning the tide at First Manassas. And it's always hot. And this uniform is wool, and it is hot.
But I also like to talk about women and their roles in the Civil War. The women had to take over and run the homes and the farms and the businesses because all the men were off at war. Soldiers would come through and steal their property, food from the gardens, hay from the barns. But after these items, there was one more that was stolen quite often, and that was brick. The soldiers would steal the brick off of the houses and the chimneys to use in the floor of their tents. If it's wintertime, they'd use the brick to make a stove or a fireplace for heat. So life was very difficult for the women, especially in the war zones of Virginia. Some women were nurses, like Clara Barton, the founder of the Red Cross. Louisa May Alcott, the author of Little Women, was a nurse during the Civil War. There were women spies, like Laura Radcliffe and Rose Greenhouse, and there were also many camp followers that would cook, sew, and do laundry for the soldiers. But they were supposed to have a letter from a town official stating that they were good, moral, and honest women.
Well, and as you know, General Hooker's good, moral, honest women acquired their own special name.
And there are over 400 documented cases of women who became soldiers and fought in the Civil War. And you can see, I have hanging on my tent fly there some examples, and you will see them here in just a second, a little closer up, as the woman and as the soldier. Very interesting to learn about these stories. We also participate in Christmas at the Stone House on the battlefield. And in this particular scene, I'm helping children write letters to soldiers using authentic stationery and a wooden, lead pencil. And this year, the letters were actually given to modern day soldiers, and they had a lot of fun doing that. But Christmas at the Stone House is a very big event and very well attended.
Skipped last year.
Well, yes, I think I skipped last year for everybody, but this is one of our fellow reenactors from the 17th Virginia in the classroom, talking about the life of a soldier. There's Mark, Paul, and our son TJ talking with another group. Usually talk about a soldier's life.
And here I am explaining the first Battle of Manassas to a group of sixth graders at a elementary school.
So a letter from a teacher said, "Thank you so much for your visit on Monday. As I read students' reflection sheets, I was impressed by how much they learned from you and your partner. Here are some of the students' comments. I got to see in real life how things were back then, and the reenactors provide a lot of details. I got to thinking more about how hard their life actually was. It actually changed my point of view. I understand more the views of women and what they did. It's very interesting having them here, and I learned a lot. I didn't know that men wear the men purse. I thought that in the Civil War, only people in the war suffered. Now I know that everyone suffered. I love learning about the Civil War." And those are just a few comments. We had a lot more. Here are some photos of just some fun opportunities. A ball. Everyone loves a ball, and they're always well attended.
And infrequent now.
Yeah, here's Mark learning how to do the Virginia reel, I think.
This is trying to reproduce a famous sketch of four Confederate soldiers shooting at, what's his name?
Thaddeus Lowe.
Thaddeus Lowe's balloon in the Peninsula Campaign.
And there's actually a sketch, and they're recreating this.
Right.
And this is all at Blenheim in Fairfax. We've been invited to weddings. Here, this young couple we met at Living History Weekend in Manassas. And when they had their wedding, they called and asked if we would come to their reception as entertainment for their guests, just to mingle with their guests. That was a lot of fun.
Here we are below the rotunda of the Capitol, where the statues are. Robert E. Lee's statue was in there at the time, and every year there would be a celebration of his birthday, and that's Al Stone with his back to the camera as part of that. Shortly thereafter, I think that was stopped, and I think his statue has now been removed.
Yeah. You see the Capitol Police talking with the Capitol Police there in the rotunda.
Another interesting thing we get to do is portray characters in movies. This is a Shenandoah University was filming the trial of John Brown. It's only about an 8-minute piece. A professional actor portrayed John Brown, and he was very good. We were yelling at him as he came in, and here he is receiving his sentence and firing his attorneys. He was
And this was at Winchester Courthouse.
right where his trial actually took place. So that was kind of a nice historic moment. Here we're recreating Mosby's raid on Fairfax Courthouse itself, now Fairfax City, and that's General Staunton being captured. Of course, that was at nighttime, and this is in the day, but can't film so well at night. Here's a skit with a colleague from the roundtable that we performed. That's supposed to be a reproduction of a winter quarters at Centerville in the winter of 61, 62. It's pretty elaborate. My favorite thing of all, though, was going to Key West, and this is Fort Zachary Taylor. We got to stay for free if you bring a tent, and we all stayed in the parade ground. And it was just a wonderful weekend. They did that once a year.
In February.
Yes, so it was particularly nice to be down there. Delightful weather. As you can see, we're all tinted out, and they even provided showers for us, which is helpful. Our parade was a little meager, but this is us forming up for the parade through town, and I don't know where I got that hat. Got to ride on the Jolly Rover, which was a blockade runner, and we ran the blockade against two equivalent vessels, and we shot at each other, made passes, and the people on shore cheered. A lot of fun.
Like that beautiful blue water.
Yeah. It's not all sweaty in gray uniforms.
We were invited to a Rolls-Royce picnic. Here we are with a fellow living historian, a beautiful car behind us. This is a group of us, Thaddeus Lowe, portraying there on the right-hand side. And our hostess in the middle there with the umbrella.
It was also my skit partner.
Right, earlier. Because I found a swing in the front yard and I couldn't resist. And everybody wants a photo. We are stopped constantly for photos, whether just of the two of us or individual or with people. But people love to have, even the mayor of Manassas there in the white shirt in the background wanted a photo with us. Not sure he would today.
I don't think he's mayor anymore.
But it was a lot of fun. And even professional photographers want to photograph us. Here, this particular type of photography is called ghost photography. So you got the ghost images there on the tent fly. And this next one here, you see the ghost images in the background. And now we've kind of transitioned to the Bull Run Civil War Roundtable. As Mark had mentioned earlier, he's president.
And what we're finding is a lot of people are sort of tired of reenactments, but they are, as we all get older, much more interested in learning. And we're learning about, through the roundtable, we have lectures once a month from authors. And it's not just battles and generals, it's also social background. It's about slavery. It's about causes of the war, Reconstruction, the economics of the time. So we're trying to vary the information as much as we can. We found that she's our chief recruiter, by the way, and we found that we can get more people interested if we come out in period dress or uniforms, and that kind of attracts people. Also, as president now, I'm going to start wearing a top hat and black tails. So just to kind of make the point that our roundtable is not a Confederate roundtable, it's both sides, it's everything. It's just history.
Right. And there are a lot of opportunities to learn about, medicine in the Civil War, a lot of different topics. It's not just about the battles, it's about all aspects. Even women, Clara Barton may come and speak, or, it's a lot of different opportunities.
I like what you did at the beginning of this meeting, Bill. You had the American flag up there, and we actually said Pledge of Allegiance. In our Zoom meetings, I haven't been doing that, but I'm going to start doing that. I think we do it when we're there in person, do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm gonna start with the flag. Just quasi-political statement here. We believe in history, rightly or wrongly, learn from mistakes of the past, and don't just tear down statues.
Before you know
What
what they're about. We want to thank you for this opportunity to share why we are involved in the Civil War living history. And we appreciated being here. And if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Absolutely. If you can stay on, I'm sure we have some questions, Debbie, Mark.
Let me stop my share there.
This is Chuck. Actually, I have a couple of comments. First of all, thank you very much. That was a great presentation. I don't know if people are aware of this. It's just an interesting factoid. The first Battle of Manassas or Bull Run was the first major battle of the Civil War. It took place on primarily this certain farm of people that owned it. And after that battle, those people that owned that farm, I can't remember their last name, they got up and left. They wanted no more parts of battles in their front yard. And they headed to ultimately Appomattox, bought a farm down there. And lo and behold, the last battle of the Civil War took place right in their front yard again. And it was their home that General Lee and General Grant got together and finally put an end to it.
That's true. Wilbur McLean. He was a sugar.
Yes, McLean.
Yeah.
One other funny anecdote, 1961, I was 10 years old. My grandparents lived in Winchester, Virginia, and I used to go down there and stay with them a couple of weeks during the summer. So they had a big thing going on about the centennial of the Civil War. My grandmother worked for People's Drugs, and they had all the Civil War memorabilia for sale. They had Confederate hats and they had Union hats, and I wanted to buy one. Only that day, all the Confederate hats were gone. So the only ones left were Union hats. So I bought one of those and started walking up the street, head back home, and three boys took exception to that. And they beat the living hell out of me. And I got home and my grandfather said, "What happened to you, boy?" And I said, "I don't know. I was just wearing this hat and three boys beat me up." He said, "Boy, you need to learn some history." And then I got interested in history, and I really studied hard after that.
Chuck, you're really something. I tell you, Mark, Debbie, Chuck is going to be our next president. Our fiscal year begins in July, and we're going to have one great year ahead of us because he's a funny guy and very knowledgeable. Any other questions for Mark or Debbie?
One observation.
Medi, go ahead, Medi.
Yeah, I just want to point out the glaring absence of the African American involvement in the Civil War, and I believe that the story is going to be incomplete if the role of the African Americans are not illustrated in these reenactments, and its glaring absence is so obvious that it can portray an skewed story of the Civil War.
Well, we certainly understand that and aware of that. The Union side has several African-American, what they call at the time, colored regiments in the reenactments. So the Black experience is being portrayed more and more commonly in everything we're doing.
I think that it can be incorporated in the events now is in terms of what the African American role, for example, when you portray the people in the camp, are they serving? Are they involved in cooking, for example, in terms of the daily life of the African American population during the war?
Well, there were soldiers. I mean, they were fighting. Just they were all there together.
But I believe they were also involved. Yeah, but they are involved in many roles, not just like soldiers, but they were helping in the building of camps and in clearing bodies, that sort of role. Anyway, that's just an observation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Medi.
But I have a question.
Go ahead, Stan.
When you do your battle reenactments, do both sides get to be on the losing side, or do you switch? Sometimes do you play the losers and the other guys get to play the losers?
Almost every weekend reenactment, one side wins on Saturday, the other side wins on Sunday, and they usually flip a coin. And the instructions are fairly vague, and sometimes not everybody plays fair. But generally speaking, yes, one side clearly wins one day and the other side on the other.
Okay, well, look, Debbie, Mark, once again, thanks for joining us. I owe you an apology. I moved you to Alexandria. I please excuse my error there. The Whittingtons are actually in Arlington. If I threw anybody off, and I also want you go ahead.
Bill, actually, we're in Gainesville.
Oh, I'm gonna say I'm totally off.
I joined the Arlington Optimist Club while I was still in the old days when I still lived in Alexandria. After we got married, we moved out here, further west.
And I want to call out that we have a soldier among our ranks. Bill Stram is a retired colonel from the U.S. Army, so we've got a kindred spirit there. So if there's nothing else, Diane, thank you. With regard to what we think, say, and do, 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and friendships? 4, will it be beneficial
to all concerned?
And Stanley,
And will we have fun?
see you next week.
Hi, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much.